Okay, so I am touching up, honing some chisels today, really quick. I'm going to need this one here for some mortising. An old friend of mine gave me that actually. They were all in pretty bad shape. I don't usually do it this way, but I decided to give this a shot today. Um, Pretty straightforward. Took a sanding belt, it's 120. I cut it open. I used some adhesive here. This one here was the worst. I find that something like this is the easiest way to get rid of all the burrs and just quickly, you gotta lock your wrists, hold that angle right, add a little bit of force, and this quickly gets me to where I want to be, and then I'll go to the water stones next. You want to do that nice and even until you start to feel a burr on the back side. These here have all been done, and there's a nice burr on the back side of that. Let's see if I can make you. A little bit of a burr on the back of that sharp edge there. That's what you want. All right. I've been doing this a long time, so I don't use jigs or anything. This was really chipped up, but I got this all fit. They're all fixed up. This one here is my biggest disappointment because I must have dropped this at some point and I knocked the corner off. So for me to get that correct, I've really got to take down a lot of material here, and I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'll give it a couple more passes real quick because that's going to take a while. Also, a longer slope is better for harder woods, and a shorter slope is better for softer woods. I prefer the Japanese steel. It tends to hold an edge better, longer. Forcing down with this hand, I can feel it lock right there. You just feel that angle lock. If there's enough surface area there, it just registers itself flat, and I'm just pushing with the backhand. And I'm trying to be mindful not to lift this up or down. So, this is not for everybody. I know there's a lot of guys out there, they use jigs. I could typically get these chisels, you'll see when I get to the water stones, to the point where I can shave the hair off my arms and there's a mirror polish on them. I'm also using my legs and my body. I'm not just, I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to try to show this to you. I want you to watch my body move here. So my whole upper body, I'm using my feet. My right foot goes up on its tiptoe over here, and I'm locking my whole upper torso. I'm locking my upper arm, my left arm, tight to my rib cage. I've got this here. I'm just pushing this forward. And you're going to say, well, do that with a wider chisel. Can you do that with a narrower chisel? I also have this brass brush here. Get the dust, the metal dust out of there, so this will still work. And we'll take a smaller one here. I mean, these all already been all done. This one's a little tougher because there's a point here. So it's a little bit more right there. I got it locked. I can feel it lock. Once you get it where you want it, you want to just make sure your whole body is locked there. This becomes, you know, iron. And I know I got a nice burr behind here. Well, I'd like to show that to you, but it won't focus. Anyhow, it's right there. Let me move on to the stones. I keep my stones in this bucket with water. This is usually sealed. I haven't sharpened chisels in quite some time. This is a sharpening stone flattener. And for years, I used this edge up here or the back of it to do what you just saw me doing a moment ago. But the problem is that this becomes highly irregular. It's not a nice flat surface anymore. You can see the scarring from that. So I don't like using that anymore. That's the reason I decided to try this. And these are all different grits. This thinner one here is the grittiest grit, so I'll start with that. Then I'll move to this stone here. And unfortunately, there's not much left to this stone. So then I'll jump to this one, and I'll go to the white stone, which got damaged. You see this groove in here? This was from driving across the country with these stones, and it was laying up against probably that big thick stone there, and it created a groove. Essentially, this is ruined, but I can still use it. This is my super hard smooth side. I don't know what these numbers are in here. I don't remember. I bought them a long time ago, but this is my polisher. This is the one that gets me the mirror polish in the end. So let me get going with this. Kind of wetting the wood here a little bit, and I'm using this. Wet my hands a little bit. The friction will hold this in place. I've had this holder and these stones for decades. Decades. And I'll use this now to get most of the scratches out of each one of these chisels. Clearly I'm not going to do this for you want to use the whole stone too. Move across the stone, turn this around at some point, because it'll help you wear the stone a little bit more evenly. You want to get that bevel off the back side. So I do, this is my technique because again, it's working the whole stone. I'm less likely to create like a crazy divot in the stone here. This is already super sharp. It'll catch my fingernail here. That's really good. But I'm going to go through 2 or 3 more stones, 2 or 3 more grits to get that mirror polished, and it'll shave the hair on my arms. No sweat. It's that simple. Let me just keep working these and I'll get to the next stone and I'll turn you back on. Alright, so those are all hit with that first stone. This here's a much harder stone. Honestly, these are sharp enough where most of you guys would just use them. They're already in pretty good shape here. It only takes a couple passes with each one. These edges I'll hit briefly. Eventually they'll be a mirror polish. These are my 2 newest chisels, these 2 here. They had super long handles on them and I cut them down. And these are actually bicycle parts I put on there. You gotta tap that down a little more, lock that on. They were just too long to use. And now I can just tighten up on the work. I modify a lot of my own tools. Most craftsmen will do that. So my initial test is just, I'll just hit this with my finger. If that catches my fingernail, I know that's pretty sharp. Just gonna keep working here. And There's too many chisels for me to sit here and do this to all of them for you. This video would just get super long, but the technique remains the same. You lock everything down, a couple passes, a decent amount of pressure, but you don't want to overdo it. If you lift this now with the stone, it'll bite right into the stone and create little chips in the stone, or little divots. I'll push hard here. You can see this is becoming a mirror polish. It's not there yet. That's really sharp. Super sharp. I'll be back. This one here is the most important chisel to me right now. Got to throw a little more water on here because it's 3/8 of an inch wide, and that's the size of my tenons. So when I go to make my mortises, this will be the chisel I use to clean out the mortises. Right now it's very hot. I've got a fan on me, mostly, well, it's two parts, keep the heat off me, but also to keep the mosquitoes away from me. But the heat and the air dries this stone out because this stone is less porous than the first stone. Like I said, I like to hit all the edges because if it's polished everywhere, when I'm coming in and out of the mortises, it will has less likely chance of sticking, like with friction up against the wood. Oh man, that's a pretty sharp chisel already. And you can see, you should be able to see the mirror coming out on these things. Normally I have my music going and I'm jamming out. You know how YouTube is. If it gets a little dry, it's okay too. As long as you have that grayness there, that's like a dry slurry, but that helps to polish. Too much water is actually not a great thing. You got to find the perfect combination. You might be able to see that mirror happening. It's very, very sharp. Now this one isn't catching me so well. It actually, I can feel a bevel on this back side right now. That was actually the front side. So I'm going to go a little lighter, a little light pass here, little light passes. Oh yeah, that's very sharp right there. That's very, very, very sharp. Let me get these other ones done, I'll get on to the next stone. Alright, we are on to the final stone. Got to get that feel. Once you get that feel, each chisel's a little bit different. Unless you got a set. And these are all different chisels, so the angles are all slightly different. This chisel and this chisel both have the same bevel angle to them. But the rest of these are all different. Now this chisel here, I was in Texas, West Texas, building out a hunting cabin, I don't know, like 4 years ago, and I chipped this on a nail in some wood, and there's still a little bit of that divot in it, barely. I thought this chisel was ruined. You might see the polish on that now, but this here, looks like I got to sharpen a little bit more. Took a couple hairs off there. This is not the best one to test that with because the edge of this is so bad. But that is your final true test. Try that with the next one here. Let's try it with this one here. I can't, keep you guys on the screen here. It's going to get too long of a video. If you only had to do one chisel, I'd be back to work already. But if I'm going to break all this stuff out, I figure I might as well get a bunch of chisels done at the same time. There we go. Yeah, it's cutting the hair right off my arm, so no problem there. I actually sliced myself, maybe. Anyhow, that's your test. Honestly, if I could do this, just barely drop it on my thumbnail and it bites, see what's happening there? It's taking a little bit of my fingernail off. That's very, very, very sharp. I did cut myself. All for you guys. I'm bleeding. I'm bleeding for you. Anyhow, that's how I hone my chisels. I hope you're not too bored with this. Somebody asked me this, it could have been a year ago. Somebody asked how I do my chisels. Might not have enough light on my face there. Somebody asked me how I do my chisels about a year or so ago, and I said, well, the next time I do it, I'll try to remember to film it, and this is the next time I'm doing it. Most of the chisels I have here are high quality steel, and if you hone them to this point, and then also take care of them and put the covers on them, like I've got this cover I made here from cardboard and duct tape. This goes on the 2-inch chisel. Make sure that's always on there to protect it when it's being stored, and just be mindful of your edges and where they are, and your chisels will hold that edge for a long time. I've taken chisels that are totally dull, duller than a butter knife, and put a mirror finish and an edge on it that you can shave with. So I love finding quality vintage chisels at swap meets and things like that, and then using them again. And I've built up mismatched sets before and made these holders for them, and I've sold those, or mostly I've traded with them as barter items because they're cool, man. One more thing, right? That's it. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for being here. I got to get to work. I got to do the joinery now. I'll catch you in the next one. Be good to one another.